All good? Gutted I didn't get to go on the rickshaw. Gutted I didn't get to go on the e-rickshaw. Say again? It was. But don't worry. Sam told him no PR or HR. Risk.
We can take our masks off for a minute. We can be demasked.
Don't worry at all. I quite understand. Thank you for showing me around. Please, ready when you are.
Let me welcome all of you to the Indian Institute of Science. Especially, I would like to extend a special welcome to the Foreign Secretary. So we are very honored to have him here at the Indian Institute of Science. I would also like to welcome Chris Gopalakrishnan, who is going to chair the session. As all of you know, he was one of the co-founders of Infosys, and he right now is the chair of Axelar Ventures, and is also a great philanthropist. I think especially we at the Institute have benefited greatly from our association with him. So I would like to warmly welcome Chris, and I now request Chris to take over the session.
Thank you, Professor Rangarajan. It's my honor and privilege to add my welcome, and on behalf of all the participants, our welcome to UK's first Secretary of State and Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, the Right Honorable Dominic Raab, MP. Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab is the Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs and first Secretary of State. He was first appointed Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs and first Secretary of State on July 24th, 2019. He was first elected Conservative MP for Esher and Walton in May 2010. He has had extensive experience in government, and you're also spending 4 days in India. Thank you for that. And now I would request you, sir, to make your opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for your warm welcome, and can I also thank you, Professor, for this gift, the autobiography of Maurice Travers, the founder and pioneer of this fantastic institute. I think if you wanted to find the heart of the fourth industrial revolution, I think being at India's leading university, talking to all of you, the leaders in emerging technology, the entrepreneurs outside, and being here in Bengaluru, the capital of India's tech industry, I think it's as good as it gets, frankly. And I'm excited to be, I was excited to meet your Prime Minister and talk about the strategy, but I'm just as excited to be here and see at the, we can't call it the coalface anymore, it's not very sort of politically friendly in environmental terms, but at the vanguard of what's going on. So it's really exciting for me. I'm very thrilled to be here, and it's a great honor to learn from all of you, because you're really at the front line. And I think the thing that always strikes me every day I've spent here has been the sense of energy and possibility that you have. I'm sure it's partly driven by the tech culture, but I think it's also the spirit of your nation, and certainly the spirit of this state and Bangalore, which I've had a chance to spend a bit of time in. We know there are emerging technologies, AI, big data, quantum computing, 5G, all developing very rapidly and changing our lives in ways we couldn't imagine just a few years ago. I think particularly solar. If I look in the UK, the subsidies and the cost of solar as an investment has come right down. And that's partly driven by the innovation which, of course, India has been at the forefront of. Of course, together, I think we're at the cutting edge of these technologies, so that's an exciting thing for the UK and for India. I know you're putting a huge amount of resource into quantum. That's something that we're very interested in. There are leading companies and research institutions working on AI as well. Again, clearly the tech of the future. And your access to vast pools of data, given just your size and the breadth of your population, gives you a real comparative advantage in that sector, a demographic comparative advantage. And of course, here in Bengaluru, the city and wider region, you've got 400 R&D centres and 85 chip designing houses, which is just awesome on the scale of things. So I think around 60% of biotech companies in India have their base here in the city or in the state. So you're truly a global tech hub, and perhaps not getting quite the level of recognition that you should, but I think your results speak for themselves, and that's why I wanted to come down here and hear about it, be part of it, and explain that the United Kingdom wants to reinforce the partnerships that we've got with all of you. Now, just in terms of what we bring to the game, because I know, particularly, let's say the scientists and the entrepreneurs, but the politicians will always say, well, we're innovating, but you're a developed country, you got rich at the time of emissions going up, what are you doing about it? And we take that seriously. We take our responsibility seriously, and we've got one of the largest, I would say, tech ecosystems with thousands of tech startups built on a strong entrepreneurial culture. And of course, as government, we want to create the right regulatory fiscal incentives, the infrastructure support to make it sustainable. But I'm pleased to say that we're not just doing it on our own, because we've got India's tech leaders putting a really strong presence in the UK. Almost a third of those working for Indian companies in the UK are in tech and telecoms, which is, again, another mind-boggling statistic. And over the last 5 years, the combined revenue of Indian companies in Britain grew by a phenomenal 87%. It doubled, with tech and telecom companies leading the way. So that gives you a sense of the growth. And one of the reasons I keep talking about India and the Indo-Pacific is because of the growth over not just a 5-month period or even a 5-year period, but a 10, 15, 20, 30-year period. You've got companies like Route Mobile and Incessant Technologies growing their presence at the fastest rate we've ever seen. You've got unicorns like Ola Cabs also quickly becoming established, not just here, but in the UK and other markets. And I think the economic opportunities of this revolution are very clear. But they also throw up a whole range of challenges. And again, one of the reasons that I wanted to come down is look at what they may be and see how we can work together to overcome them. There's a whole issue around equitable access for all to those technologies. You know that here in a country like India. We've got the ethics of new tech, including the balance between the, if you like, the utilitarian advances that we can progress with the rights and the privacy and the individual liberties that I think in both your culture and mine we prize, and how to best provide the governance framework in what are currently, both at the domestic and probably local area, but also at the international level, quite ungoverned spaces. We're talking a lot about this in Delhi. There's a conversation about China as an economic but also a political competitor. One of the things we need to do more of is avoid a vacuum where the norms, international norms, which create a framework which don't just provide you certainty as entrepreneurs, but also provide a baseline for the integrity of the technologies that we are developing. We've got to make sure we don't allow a vacuum or allow that vacuum to be filled by more nefarious either countries or forces. So that's a challenge, and certainly as a foreign minister I take that very serious. I think these are all vital areas, but they're too big, too all-encompassing for any one country to tackle alone. So we've got to team up. Now you know that, you're entrepreneurs, you're joining forces with science and research facilities. We're starting to do that in the UK as well. But I think we've got to work more closely together in a more integrated way to be as effective as we can be and to realise the full potential of the technologies we're talking about, and to make sure we manage the balance between seizing opportunities but also mitigating risks. And I think our two nations have a crucial role to play, given our, I would say, dynamic tech sectors, our strong research base, combined with our broader leadership on the global stage, and frankly also our values and the underpinning. We have bonds of language, culture, common legal systems, more or less, and these give us, I think, a bedrock within which international cooperation can be even more fruitful than certainly some of the other partnerships that I see for the UK. So I want to work even more closely with India, both at the government level, but also the business level, certainly at the research level, on things like 5G networks, so we're more secure and more resilient in the future. And funnily enough, I don't know how much you follow the debate in the UK about 5G. We've anguished over this decision, and one of the challenges is that we have a nervousness about high-risk vendors. Yes, from China, but not just China. And one of the challenges that in the UK around the cabinet table we discuss is how we avoid ever being in that situation again, how we have diversified supply chains, but also, candidly, how we develop high-trust vendors, high-trust supply chain providers, high-trust members of those critical components. And that's one of the things where I really see an exciting opportunity for India and the United Kingdom and other countries, Korea, the US, Japan, Singapore, because I think there is a level of business integrity that we can work together to forge, which means that we have more reassurance at a strategic level, not just at a technical level, let alone at a commercial level. I think we saw that not just on 5G, but on, frankly, in the COVID crisis, the reliance on specific supply chains in relation to PPE, critical medical supplies. We were very grateful for the support on paracetamol. Prime Minister Modi tells us always that you're the pharmacy of the world. I think we saw that in this pandemic. But we embrace that. There's in any good partnership, there's a division of labour, there's a comparative advantage. We're excited about yours, and we think we provide complementary skills and attributes that we can bring to the game, if you like. And I think what we will be seeing next year with the UK presidency of the G7 in 2021, with COP26 that we're hosting in Glasgow, co-hosting, I should say, with our Italian friends, is that we're going to be looking to galvanise supply chain resilience right across the international community. And I think your leadership and India's leadership makes that partnership even more important. And of course, you'll be chairing the G20. So again, there's a baton changing that I think in terms of the strands of work we're doing together that is really exciting. So my bottom line, if you remember one thing from today, from me at least, is let's work together, because there's clearly huge potential. There are also challenges and issues on governance, ethics, accessibility, but let's play to our strengths. One of the exciting things, we've been so absorbed in my country about the whole Brexit debate, and funnily enough, it's felt rather insular whichever side you're on. So while the negotiations are still going on at home, it's great for me to come out here where there's so much ambition, optimism, and a real sense of can-do, a can-do spirit that I think you have in your researchers, your entrepreneurs, and your politicians. We want to work with you. I'm really excited by the possibilities that lie ahead, and that's really enough from me. I just want to listen to all of you, but thank you very much for hosting and for taking the time out to talk to me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Foreign Secretary. The key points of, looking for leveraging our strengths, creating opportunities, opportunities where both the countries can benefit, both the people of both the countries can benefit, and we will, do the opening round, and I would, start by asking 3 separate questions actually. And you can answer all of them, you can answer just one of them, but try and answer at least one of them actually. It is to keep us focused. To keep us focused actually.
Chris has become a professor.
Yeah, I see.
No. One thing I know, we need to conclude with some take action items, right?
Very good.
So that's why, I would like us to focus on these 3 points actually. First is, if we set a date, we know that the Prime Minister of UK is actually going to be the chief guest for the Republic Day. I don't know whether it's confirmed or not, but at least
It's confirmed.
it's confirmed, right. So we have the Prime Minister of UK visiting us. So we have approximately, about 45 days from now onwards. And if you want to actually put on the agenda something that you would like both the countries to agree on, take forward, because that should be our goal, right? And in 3 areas. One, in applied research, right? Many of the people in this room have a direct connection to research or indirect connection to research. And this could be in any area, Foreign Secretary talked about 5G, talked about sustainability, climate change, any area that you are personally interested, your organization is interested in. So, and this has to be, specific, this, and it has to be big, not small thing, so that it creates an impact. So one area in applied research. Second is in basic research, where we can dream, we can think big, we can work together for many years, because there are many, many challenges. Personally, if you ask me, I'm very much interested in addressing the issue of aging-related neurological disorders. The Center for Brain Research here is focused on that, and I know that this is going to be a problem for the entire world. So that's my priority, but you have to come up with your priority. And till now, there have been no solutions, no drugs for cures for any of these diseases. So, it's a good area for us to work together. And the third is in the area of regulation, which again the Foreign Secretary talked about. What is hindering us to raise the level of business to business, academia to academia, or academia to business, or government to government in interaction in amplifying or increasing our relationship. So is there anything that is hindering you today in your work and in your work with UK? So I'm going to start, and I know that we have Dame Wendy Hall on the video. We have Dr. Sean. I hope I'm not going to mispronounce this. Igirtia. I hope joining us. Only 2 people, right, online? Professor Narahari and Professor Gurumurthy. Okay. So we have 4 people. I will come to you specifically. First, I'll just go around the room. When I reach the middle, I will go online and then continue inside the room. Right. So just 2 or 3 minutes. Just think about one point you want to put on the table, and we will have the discussion afterwards. So Arindam. Starting with you.
I don't know. Can you hear me? Okay, sure. I'm Arindam Ghosh. I'm a faculty member at the Department of Physics here. I would actually quickly add to what Krish just said. Among many other technologies, I think quantum technology should be one of the major areas of collaboration between India and UK. I have been in UK for more than 5.5 years. I was in Cambridge and also interacted with lots of technical personalities who are working in quantum. I think in next few years, quantum will become very big, very large. India is already investing a significant amount in it. And I'm coordinating the IISc's effort in the quantum technologies. So we'll be very happy to tie up in that direction. Krish?
Thank you. On quantum computing.
Quantum
and
technologies in general.
Quantum technologies.
Quantum computing,
But,
quantum sensing.
Is there, so is it open-ended, basic research, applied research? Do you have a specific,
Yes.
computer that you would like to build, and is there a partner in UK you would like to work with?
Absolutely. So UK, I know Oxford is creating quantum computers. In Cambridge, Toshiba and Shields and others, they are creating quantum communication network, which covers the entire city of Cambridge and other cities as well. So you essentially connect different parts of the city with secured network. I think that is going to happen in the next few years. In India, already ISRO have started initiatives in this direction. The mandate of the national mission, which is going to come up in the next few months, will be to create a long-distance quantum secured network. I think that's a very applied research. Quantum computation, on the other hand, is a fundamental research. I think we can engage in both.
So a specific program which ties what is happening at Cambridge, Oxford with the work that ISRO is doing.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's very specific. Okay. Next, Amrish. Yes, thank you. Just briefly introduce yourself. And
Sure.
then, yeah.
My name is Amaresh Chakravarti. My connection to UK goes for 14 years. I lived in Cambridge. I did my PhD and worked there in the university. And then I came back here. So that's broadly, and I chair the Center for Product Design and Manufacturing at IISc. So briefly, my background is in smart manufacturing. We started India's first R&D platform in smart factory. We are putting together a smart factory in-house as a test bed for trying out ideas and innovations around smart factory and Industry 4.0. We also have a technology business incubator that focuses on the elderly. So it's very close to the first elderly-focused medtech business incubator in the country. So what I wanted to say is that there are three, the broad area that I would like to propose is manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, in particular smart manufacturing, but within that, three specific areas that are of particular importance. One is cobotics, collaborative robotics, where humans and computers people have to work together. Second is additive manufacturing, and both additive and hybrid manufacturing, where other kinds of manufacturing can join hands with additive in order to take the advantage of both. And the third is the augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, haptics, as the technology that will have the impact on creating not only ways in which we can make the labor more enhanced in their performance, but also maybe go towards education 4.0. So education is a huge area that skilling requires, and large-scale skilling is extremely important, and all of them will help there. So, our view of manufacturing is that there is also automation intensive, but also labor intensive manufacturing. And
So,
in a country
Amrish,
of this side, you have to.
Can I pin you down?
Yeah,
You've
pin
given
me down.
three broad areas, but can you be even more specific? Any particular project that you're working on, any program that you're working on, and is there a collaborator on the UK side you would like to
So
work with?
we have collaborators in Cambridge in manufacturing, in the AR/VR aspects. We have collaborators in additive manufacturing in Canfield, where we are especially exploring if we can use wire as the feed powder production.
Is there any challenge that you're facing?
No, there is no specific challenge, but this is an area where we feel that if there is a nationwide initiative, this will give a lot of impact into developing these areas. See, one challenge broad challenge that we are facing in smart manufacturing in general is to create something that is both advanced and affordable. Right now, the technologies are very expensive, and we need to go for next generation technologies that are far more affordable, in particular to support the medium, small, and micro enterprises of the country, which is what is producing 33% of the output in manufacturing. But they need to go up the value chain. And that cannot happen unless you have advanced technologies that are affordable. So that's the challenge that we would like to work on in manufacturing.
Sure. So you would like to work on technologies that make these affordable, and small and medium enterprises can afford these.
That's right. But also advanced, because otherwise they will not be able to compete.
Sure, sure. Okay, thank you. Deepak Patki? Deepak, if I may, I'm told that Dame Wendy Hall has to leave quickly. So, Wendy, we are going to come to you next. And you heard, hopefully, my question to all the people, 3 areas, and be specific if possible. Thank you. Over to you, Wendy. Yeah, yeah, we can hear you. Yes. Yes.
Yes, Wendy, we can hear you.
With AI and data governance. We have to create resilient systems that we can trust, and trust at so many different levels. And I think many of you know that because I've been out to India and talked about it, I co-authored the UK government's AI review in 2017, and our AI strategy has been based on that ever since. One of the top recommendations, apart from skills, which of course was very, very important, and I'm the UK AI skills champion for my sins, but apart from skills, one of the top recommendations we put in that report was the need to grow data trust. These are legal and ethical frameworks for sharing data. They're called various things, but it's the word trust that's important, that people can trust to share data. The internet, I mentioned the internet at the beginning. I've written a paper and I'm writing a book about, I call it the 4 internets. It's about the geopolitical fragmentation of the internet. The original internet is still working, technical standards, but it's fragmenting around government, different ways government organize the internet. We talk about the 4, it's the 1+3, which is the US market-led internet, the European data protection internet, and the Chinese paternal or maybe surveillance internet. But the point I want to make here, because I make it every time I come to India, is I think India is absolutely fundamental in the future of the internet because of the scale you have and the technical expertise that you have, and the fact that last year we reached a point where 50% of the world is on the internet. But that's amazing, but it means that 50% of the world is still to get on the internet. And that 50% are largely in rural China, rural India, and rural Africa. And when we get 100% of the world on the internet, assuming we do, then the power that the people will have in those parts of the world, China, India, and Africa, in terms of how the internet evolves and how these issues of data governance evolve, absolutely crucial. I think of India as the swing state here. And I'm often coming out and talking, and there has this, I know, because the wonderful thing about the UK and India is we share so many things in common, particularly common values and common governance issues. I was very pleased to read recently the Indian government, the report for the Indian government on non-personal data governance. We've all, of course, been very very aware in COVID of the issues of private data and how we deal with that. But there's huge issues for industry in terms of how industry shares data between in its own organisation, but also between industries and different companies. And I think that report that came from India was really significant, and I've been talking it up in the UK because I think there's a lot that the UK could learn from that report. And two last points. One is Rolls-Royce, which you think of as a manufacturing company, last week, or this week actually, released its AI ethics framework. And Rolls-Royce is, of course, a data company, and it uses AI to analyse that data. And on Monday, they released their Alethea framework for AI ethics, and I think the industry needs practical examples like this as to how to manage in an ethical and how to way and get the compliance and governance sorted for this. So it's this issue of, I'm sure Sean might talk about the principles of ethics, and a lot of this happens, in a quite an abstract way at the moment, and we desperately need practical examples for industry to be able to follow easily, to enable them to audit data and AI, and make sure they're complying with whatever regulations the governments around the world come up with as they trade globally, digitally. And that's going to be so important going forward, trade in the digital on a global scale, and that's what we've got to really think about. So I'm really keen to follow up on this, follow up with the Foreign Secretary and the people leading on this in the UK, particularly the word on the street at the moment in the UK is digital twins and the UK Digital Twin Project, and I know there's work in India on that, and the key for me on that is technical standards and interoperability. And I'm on the board of MOSIP, which is the modular open source identity platform that's come out to the ADHA. I'm on the advisory board for that. And I think that's very important for the world as well, the digital identity platforms. And these are very much being led from India, and we have big projects at the Turing Institute in joint on that. So there's so many people I'd love to collaborate with, both in universities and industry, and I'm very keen to, I can't wait to be able to come and visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. And Foreign Secretary, I want to add to what Wendy put on the table. There is an opportunity for UK and India together to provide leadership to the world. We want to keep the internet open. We want to make access to internet at some point one of the fundamental rights, the part of the SDGs in the UN. We want to allow cross-border movement of data, but it requires trust, it requires harmonization, it requires us to not split the world, as Wendy said, into multiple internet and things like that. India has the technical depth, the understanding of the challenges. A lot of the open source code is actually being created in India. MOSIP that Wendy talked about is actually anchored in India. It's a open source version of the identity project that India has implemented. And now that's being implemented in other countries, Philippines, Morocco, places like that, there are other emerging countries. And we can actually work together in promoting this, in creating, harmonization is required in the future of regulations. Otherwise, industry will be challenged because every country will have its own rules and regulations. So we need to work together, and your leadership in this will be very, very important. Thank you. Back to you, Deepak. Sorry.
No, thanks, Chris. So I'm Deepak Padaki. I head strategy for Infosys, and we're, of course, have a big presence in the UK as well, and other parts of the world. I also run our innovation fund that looks at investing into new technologies and what we call as Horizon 2, Horizon 3 technologies. So I just want to just, on your third point of regulation, Chris, just to add to what you and Wendy said, I think if you look back at the real Cold War that happened, the UK had a very seminal role to play in bringing harmony between the two big other superpowers. And I think that can repeat now, that especially, I'm placing this in the context of Brexit as well, that if you are now independent and then you have regulations happening in the EU, in the US, and of course in China, and if you can play a big role in harmonizing that and coming with an independent view. So that's my, on the regulation point, I think there's a unique opportunity for you, and of course, India will benefit from that as well because of the things that Chris said. So that was my point on regulation. We are more into the applied research area, and I think today we are investing in the UK for collaborative AI, and I want to pick off what Wendy said as well. More specifically, AI for fintech, which is a big area of focus for us. I think, of course, what we'd like is more access to technology companies that are working on AI in the UK that we can collaborate with. And similarly, we have access to a lot of technology startups in India, but they're more focused on the India market, and we have to see how we can use them to support the UK market. I think one other area in fintech and telco tech, I would say, is just like you said, the UK is the pharmacy of the world. I think what we've done there uniquely is you have the innovation, and we have the ability to bring it into an inclusive mode, and lowering the cost of the technology and the access and everything else. So why can't we repeat that story in tech and in fintech and in telco, right? Because that's what India needs. And if we can bring in sophisticated technologies from outside, but use India through open source or anything else, Chris, that we can make it more inclusive for everybody in India, right? And we do a lot of work with BT, for instance, in some of these new upcoming telco areas. But maybe that's something to look at from an applied research perspective.
Purnima?
Thanks, Chris. I'm Purnima Shinoy. I run a consulting firm called Hummingbird Advisors. I've been a serial entrepreneur and also a British Chevening scholar, which was really very important in changing my career. So I'm very thankful to the Chevening Scholarship. What I saw is, and a cause that's very dear to me, is about women entrepreneurs. And I think the UK and India has great strengths for women in technology, fintech, and finance. So I think, can there be some kind of cross-border collaboration, maybe addressing mutual markets? Can we work with women who are entrepreneurs and creating jobs in these two geographies? So Chris, you asked to be very specific. So I was saying, looking at it from the city of London and the city of Bangalore, which are two large entrepreneurial hubs and which really do not have very much of a gender divide, I think these two cities on an exchange basis could be a very good starting point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now let me go to online and ask Sean to make his opening remarks.
First of all, I must apologize that I've had some sound issues, so I've struggled at times to follow the thread of the conversation, and so if I repeat anything that's previously been said, I do apologize. I'll build on a few of the comments that Wendy made, which I heard loud and clear, and which I thought were really excellent and on point. I strongly support her view that effective data governance and data sharing is going to be essential, particularly in the area of AI, which I'll focus a little bit more on, but also in other areas. This has been really highlighted for me in recent months through the work I've been doing with the AI and Pandemics Working Group of the recently established Global Partnership on AI, which of course the UK and India are founding members of. At the start of this year, I'm sure we all saw that there was a huge amount of enthusiasm about the potential for AI and digital technologies in the fight against COVID. But I think if we do a sober analysis now of how much of a role AI has played in practice, we see that it's been a little bit more limited, although an awful lot of really good ideas and innovations have been developed. And one key challenge that's emerged is that it's quite hard to apply AI and machine learning to very new situations where we don't have as much data, or where that data is distributed in a way that is less easy to share. If the situation is very different than it was in the past, then you don't have the rich and well-developed data sets that you need in order to really develop robust, reliable, accurate systems. And this came up a lot in our conversations with both people on the scientific technical side on AI and clinicians in terms of what they felt were bottlenecks in terms of developing AI in robust ways, whether it's in analyzing CT scans of people with COVID or other applications of AI and machine learning to the COVID response. So one of the conclusions of that working group was that developing governance and sharing frameworks that allowed us to put together better, broader, more robust data sets, and governance frameworks that allowed for gold standards that addressed issues of ethics, security, and privacy when it came to data sharing would be a really powerful resource in allowing us to apply AI more effectively in a global challenge like the pandemic response. And I would of course say that as tragic and as challenging as the COVID situation has been, it is not the only major global health challenge that we are likely to face in coming decades. And so we must use this opportunity, or this crisis, as an opportunity to learn for future challenges. So I very much second Wendy's points on that. I'd also strongly second her view that what's really needed at this point is to go beyond high-level principles on ethics, and a lot can be said, and think about how this plays out in practice. It's when we start putting things into practice that the rubber hits the road. That's where we identify where the tensions between principles are, and where we need to embed principles in the cultural context, the societal and the economic context of different regions. We can't simply apply one size fits all to the principles that underpin AI and other emerging technologies. And I'd be very interested in hearing from our Indian partners more on their thinking of how India can use its upcoming presidency of the G20, which I believe has now been moved from 2022 to 2023, to push forward the development of thinking around such governance frameworks and standards. It seems to me that this is a really wonderful opportunity to explore and to build a more robust governance framework around these issues. I hope that there will be opportunities for us from a lot of different contexts in the UK to feed into this. My centre in Cambridge had the privilege of contributing insight into the S20 foresight process for this year's G20 held in Saudi Arabia, and we'd be delighted to contribute similarly to the G20 when it's held in 2023. And there will be a lot of work to be done in between now and then to be prepared for that. So I'll finish with that, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. A quick question to you. I agree with all your points. Do you have a specific partner or set of partners that you would like to work on the Indian side? Second, do you have a project? Of course, you talked about working together on coming up with the recommendations for G20. So do you have any partner that you would like to work with on the Indian side, or are you already working with partners on the Indian side?
Right now we're not working with partners in India, and as I joined this meeting fairly late, I haven't figured out quite yet who we should be working with, so I would very much welcome recommendations from your side. I imagine that you are, well, as expert as it comes in the great work that's happening in India.
Okay, so we will keep that in mind. Now, can I ask Professor Narahari to make his opening remarks? He's also joining online.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Sorry, I'm unable to switch on my video for some technical issues. I'm absolutely delighted to be a part of this wonderful roundtable today. And I would like to mention one particular area which promises to provide an exciting opportunity for collaboration between India and the UK. And this is the area of neuromorphic computing and data science. Thanks to a very generous endowment of Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan and Mrs. Sudha Gopalakrishnan, we have instituted 3 visiting chairs. And currently, Professor Christos Papadimitriou from the Columbia University, Professor Vasant Honavar from Pennsylvania State University, and Professor Shihab Sharma from the University of Maryland are the visiting professors. And they visit the institute campus once or twice in a year, and they engage with faculty members and grad students working in these areas. So we have created a group which we call as the Brain, Computation and Data Science Group. This has more than 20 faculty members and more than 30 graduate students working in various aspects of this area. And we also organize every year an international workshop on brain computation and learning. And I may like to say that the University College of London has been a regular participant in these workshops. In particular, Professor Manish Sahani from the University College of London has been a regular visitor on this program. In July 2018, we had a very lively workshop that was organized at the University College of London, where 7 of our faculty members visited. And we had Professor Arthur Gatton, Professor John Sean Taylor, Professor David Barber, Professor Lewis Griffin, Professor Mark Hockwell, Professor Manish Sahani, Professor Lily Lavi, Professor Tom Otis, Professor Nick Lesica participating in this workshop. And as a result of this workshop, we would like to have a joint collaborative initiative in the area of neuromorphic computing between UCL and the Indian Institute of Science. So we look forward to a very exciting partnership with not only UCL but all leading universities in the United Kingdom working in the areas of neuromorphic computing and data science. I may also like to mention a Government of India initiative recently called the VVIP initiative, where the objective is to engage with researchers abroad and researchers in India to have joint collaborative projects. And as a part of this, there was a vertical AI/ML, Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning, and IISc happened to be the lead institute from India as a part of this initiative. And we had representation from the Oxford University and also the Imperial College as a part of the AI/ML panel sessions that we had. And here again, we hope to have very fruitful and very lively collaborations with researchers from the United Kingdom. So I foresee that both neuromorphic computing and also AI/ML are going to be 2 areas where I think there can be very rewarding collaborations between India and the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Narahari. Just to add to that, I think we should look at student exchange programs and postdoc exchange programs between both our countries. I think it'll be very good way for us to increase the collaboration in the area of research. Professor Gurumurthy.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there in person as I have to slide into another event soon after this gets over. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I basically head the translation and innovation arm of the institute through basically long-term interaction with industry on research as well as incubating startups that can translate technology and science to the marketplace. The couple of points that I just wanted to make. One, I don't have any specific areas of research. My colleagues will cover that. But but if you give me the option to indicate one, I will do so at the end. But I just want to touch 2 points. One is, engagement with industry, from the UK. I think Professor Hari is there in this meeting, and maybe he will talk about this experience that we have had with British Telecom, where a large number of faculty from the institute are engaging with British Telecom doing research in cutting-edge areas. I personally would like to see more of that happen. We have done this with some companies in the past, but I would like to explore more formal ways of engaging with companies in the UK to get them to work with our faculty for mutual benefit. That's point one. The second one is that we've participated in a few programs where startups from both UK and India could collaborate together and bid for funding through some competitions that were there. Happened just around the time the pandemic struck, and we sort of our efforts fizzled out in that front. But we would like to sort of increase opportunities for our startups to engage with either the users or partners in the UK, and possibly offer our own portfolio companies the other way around to companies in the UK. So that's the second one. And lastly, if you allow me, one area where I think we should probably look at working together is the construction industry, civil construction. This is an interest that we are seeing from SID in recent times on how to reuse buildings. Right now, one is to sort of demolish it partly and reconstruct it, but rather can we go with modular construction techniques? These are only focused on flat structures. Can we extend this to high-rise structures, but with a very high degree of reuse? I believe that from a sustainability point of view and quick use point of view, this has enormous interest. We have companies and colleagues, research colleagues here in the institute who are interested in this, and I look for, we haven't explored partners in the UK yet, but if this forum can connect us to some, then we would definitely like to explore that further. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Foreign Secretary, I think you need to leave. We will continue our discussion, and we'll send you the summary of our discussion, and thank you very much for supporting this. Your leadership is very much appreciated in this. Thank you.
Well, can I just say thank you to you, to everyone that's tuned in online, and to everyone here. It's fascinating to hear all the range of issues, but also opportunities, and clearly lots for us to work on in the future, and lots of very good reasons for me to come back and see you and spend a bit more time here. Yes. So thank you, and thank you, Chris.
So, KK?
Yes.
You?
Again, for those of you who do not know, my engagement with UK is, I joined the board of CDC UK about a year back, and like the foreign minister said, CDC also in its 5-year strategy has climate change as a very major thing. With that, Chris, applying the framework.
And you already, CDC already funds many projects in
Yes, that's true. So that way, that's been an area of interest, and using the sort of framework which you gave. On applied research, while Sean did say that you need data sets to really try and apply AML, I think that's an area where US and UK and India can really collaborate. How do you apply AML to climate change use cases? And that's really an area which I think has a lot of opportunity. And I have really 2 specific suggestions. One is hopefully on Jan 26th, if Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Johnson can announce that all listed India and UK companies need to publish their carbon emission standards as a part of their annual report. I think that will make a long way. And together with both the market knowledge and the technology capabilities,
we really create a carbon marketplace, because I think we need to make people who are not complying pay for that. I think without that, I think any change would not happen. So this is one which I thought can be very specific. And also specifically to deal with urban waste, because if you go back to the chain, I think it needs patient capital. To be honest, Neve and other things is a small little drop in the ocean. We need a much larger commitment with patient capital to deal with urban waste. That's an area of applied research which I thought. On basic research, building on Arindam's point, I really think that how do you apply quantum in the context of cybersecurity? Because the next big threats to the world is pandemic and cyber attacks. So how do you apply quantum research for cybersecurity? Something which is a basic research I think both the countries can do. On the regulation work, I think there's a great opportunity to work on both the regulatory framework as well as market-making mechanisms, specifically in the areas of carbon credit. And also, I think there's a lot of digitization which you're talking about, but that has to be done in an ethical way, in a manner in which data is, we are sensitive to citizens' data. So what is a framework for citizens' data is something which both the countries can work at. So these are really my thoughts.
Thank you. Very specific. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ramakrishna?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chris, for this opportunity. And I think I'm audible, right? So we're already working with University of Edinburgh, and specifically within University of Edinburgh, Professor Harold Haas, who was doing fantastic research.
You must introduce, you're Wipro, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So we've been collaborating with him and with his team when he started as a professor doing fundamental research on visible light communication, VLC, which later became Li-Fi, which is light fidelity. In simplistic terms, every light becomes your access point for connectivity. So that's what he had imagined. He did a TED talk way back in 2011, 2012. He did come down to India, I think about 4 or 5 years back, to our campus. I think he visited Infosys campus as well, seeking collaborations. That's when we started engaging with him to see how far it goes, because it's applied research, and we were really curious to see whether there is a use case for this or it's just good to have. But the good news is the technology has matured pretty fast over the last 4 years on two fronts. One, the speed part of it. Right? Initially when it started, it was not making sense. You already have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi has already moved to generation 6. Do we need anything else? And people are asking questions. Is it going to replace Wi-Fi? The answer is no. It's going to be complementary to that. It's just going to add to that. And the other thing which happened over the last couple of years' time is it just got co-opted as a standard under IEEE 802.11. So which means when 5G rolls out, this is going to be, you're going to have a handshake, 4G, 5G, and then you enter an office building, you get into a typical office Wi-Fi network, and you'll probably get into a more secure area, which is going to be run by Li-Fi, because light cannot penetrate any solid objects. So that's what we're working on. That's the story so far. But the place where we are currently stuck and how we can actually really take that particular product or solution to the market is in terms of, as Professor Amrish had put it very nicely, making it affordable. That's still a pipe dream, because we are still talking numbers, ones and tens and hundreds. Can we really blast it and take it to thousands and 10,000s and millions? I think that's the dream what we're looking at. A couple of things which are holding it back, why it's not happening so far, is to begin with, the miniaturization of the devices itself, the drivers, right? And that started happening right now. It's now generation 4. Devices have become small. Drivers have become small. The only way this can really gain acceleration and get into a different trajectory and a momentum is when it gets into mobile phones. As of now, the technology is still not embedded. There is a lot of work which is going on from Professor Harold Haas' side. He has taken a backseat, has now become the chief scientific officer, but his team which has worked with him is the one which is really applying themselves to make sure that can we really get this into a smartphone, into a handphone, like a Bluetooth. The moment you see that you get a Wi-Fi, you get a BLE, a Bluetooth Low Energy, and can I get a Li-Fi there? Which means I sit under a light, which is enabled with a driver, and I connect pronto. Nothing else is required. So that's what we are looking at. That's still about 3 years away, because the the biggies of the world who are ruling the roost, the Microsoft with this Windows framework, the second one, Google with the Android framework, and iOS with Apple. All these three have to accept using this particular chipset inside the devices. The moment that happens, then there'll be a rapid acceleration, and we'll be probably, I think, 3 years, 5 years down the line, we'll be in the market with that particular product. So that's one area where we are already working very closely over the last 4.5 years. And we are certainly keen to collaborate with Indian academia institutions such as Indian Institute of Sciences at some point in time, how we can accelerate the journey of Li-Fi into every handphone, into every Indian home. Right? Because that will really, really make sure that, because this particular technology has the potential to unleash, because it can give you 1000x of the bandwidth which the RF spectrum currently cannot give. Right? Can we really leverage on that and democratize connectivity across the world? That's what we're working on. So we are, I would say, at some level right now, and hopefully I think we'll be able to progress the journey much faster. In terms of what Pure Li-Fi does in Edinburgh, Scotland, and what Wipro does, they're focusing a lot on the system on a chip and getting it into the devices, while we are focusing on the light side, which is typically the environment. It could be an industrial environment, it could be an airport, it could be an educational institution, it can be a commercial building. So obviously the devices have to be built in on both sides. So we are focusing on the top, whereas they're focusing on the connectivity on the ground part of it. So that's one area where we are right now on the applied research. The second area which is fascinating for us, which again Professor Amaresh had talked about, sir, we are already working in the areas which you mentioned, cobots, the collaborative bots. I will definitely have my folks in the manufacturing side connect up with you. We have a very large R&D center and innovation center under manufacturing for additive manufacturing, the 3D printing part of it in Pina, not very far from here. So that's the second area. Now the third area is where we have started really looking at, which is the augmented reality and the mixed reality. Primarily to prevent accidents in the warehouses, logistics centers, factories, and also to make sure that there is visibility, because in large warehouses, there is one forklift truck and there's a guy and he gets lost. How do we make sure that we are still able to trace him? Because your current technology of a 3G or a 4G, it just doesn't help you trace where that particular person is stuck. Right? If he needs any emergency, if any medical help is required, what kind of technology can help us? So that's one area we are really applying ourselves on. So augmented reality and mixed reality is another area we're focusing on, and the dream is to be really able to move into factory of the future. So that's the vision. So I represent the Wipro on the other side, not the IT services side. We are from the manufacturing side, the Wipro Enterprises part of it, with footprint across all the areas I spoke about, and also the consumer goods.
Thank you, Ramakrishna. Very exciting, actually. And so you're already working. So you just want to scale that up.
Take it to the next level, yeah.
And look at commercialization.
Exactly.
Okay. Kamesh.
Thanks. James, thanks for bringing me into the discussion today. And Chris, we've been chatting on CII forums many times, but I'm going to bring a little different perspective. I am from Tata Sons. I'm part of Tech and Innovation Office, responsible for strategic collaboration and technology programs. I'm also a Chevening scholar, so glad to meet Purnima on this forum. Affiliation to UK is very strong for Tatas because that's the second largest investment outside India, and 60,000 employees out there. Just to deviate from your syllabus and course, if I have to say, if we move towards impact areas identification, and say, for example, you touched on elder care or so on and so forth, if we define that elder care and aging with confidence, for example, is going to be our contribution to society going forward, it'll bring in a lot of technologies will get underpinned. So be it AI, be it data science, be it a smart home, all will get tucked in there. And this I'm speaking from an experience where we're investing time with Scotland and UK in developing a program where we will talk about a connected citizen services being delivered by Government of Scotland, but created by universities, because that's a part of research which will get in, and led and deployed by industry, which is going to be by one of the companies. But not leaving at that level, but impacting three distinct levels of society. Citizens are going to be biggest beneficiary, but also bring the element of intellect capital being energized through this engagement, which are future citizens of that local nation. And also bringing the startup and industrial ecosystem to play a mega role in deployment of that set of impact area into the program. Now, this kind of intervention will bring a lot of industry, academia, and associated players into play. However, the championing or sponsoring should happen from the government, because it's going to be a thing which is of a national importance. So that's one area I would request you to consider, that should we move away, we should keep technology as core part, but we should move into an aspect of impact and then underpin advanced research, translational research as part of the part. The second aspect, the third part, what you mentioned, if I have to articulate slightly differently, is that today we have arrangements, bilateral arrangements between UK and India. We have science and tech framework existing, DST is leading that. But it leaves us in dark to find out a suitable partner on the other side, apply through a scheme and so on and so forth. Why not, if we have a mega impact programs which are going to really change lives around the world, be adopted by government and other facilitating bodies, regulation and policy framework come into play for moving this wheel. And these could be one or two iconic big programs, as you were saying, specific programs. And these programs could be in area of healthcare, because care is going to take precedence in this pandemic. And can we reduce the budget of health by using excess force on the care side? Second area, they talked about 2050 zero carbon. So can we look at green energy and using hydrogen as a source? Both India and UK would find merit in that. And this will also very easily tuck into COP26 statement. So for me, education, competency enhancement, energy, and elder care would be areas of impact.
So, Kamesh, since your group is deeply involved in this project, just let's take elderly care itself and see what it takes to package, commercialize, and take it to other parts of the world, UK and India together.
100%.
Right? It's, so that, actually could be one of the areas that both the governments can work together. The project that you've done in UK, probably we should replicate that in India.
Absolutely.
Because then that, even a developing country can afford, right? What are the issues of implementing it in India? And then we can take it to the rest of the world. So
absolutely. In fact, on the sideline, when I was talking to Arindam, elder care, and I'm going down deeper to specific technology areas. So material sciences like graphene, which is coming up as such. Can we actually use that for healthcare and human care as such? Can we use body fabric fibers through graphene and actually start limiting physical parameters? Those would be basic research area or applied research areas depending on where we are. But that will provide a new avenue for edge devices, which feeds into ecosystem. So I think a lot.
No, the reason
I agree with you on that.
I'm emphasizing elderly care is because every country will be faced with this challenge. So this is a global problem. Japan is actually leading the world in the challenges that it's facing, right? Their population is going to decline by 25% pretty soon. And majority of the people are already older people. So elderly care is going to be a huge cost to society and a huge cost to the economy, and an opportunity for us to work together. So thank you. Vidya?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm from Tesco and I head technology for Tesco. The disadvantage of being at the end is I could say, you all said whatever I wanted to say.
No, you can't. No.
But there.
The last word.
Yeah.
No. Hari is there.
Yeah, I can't even say that. So I have two specific asks. I think all of you have articulated it really well. So I'm going to come from a Tesco, a corporate perspective and ask. So we work quite a bit with startups, and I'm also part of the advisory board of Karnataka Innovation Hub. But every time we have to partner with startups, again, we go through the whole chain of looking at all the companies which would add value to us and what is the outcome. And I thought a good ask, especially for the UK government, is that if we could have partnership with, London is known for their startup ecosystem, Bangalore is known for it, how can we collaborate? How can we get that streamlined focus in certain areas? Because in India, when we look at these startups, they're brilliant with their technology, and we know that, and UK has the domain expertise, and they're also very good with technology. How do we marry those two? So that's one ask. The second ask is regarding the industry-university collaboration. We've spoken quite a bit about it, But how do we again bring that right focus? Unfortunately, we've not been very lucky. We, of course, collaborate with universities in UK. We look at different universities here. So that's an ask, maybe something that we are not doing really well. But they say, right, research is for public good. And can we have one place where we have everything there and we can go back and see, okay, already this organization or this university is doing it, so it's much easier for me instead of asking, where do I have to go look for these universities? Sorry, I said only two, but I have one more because I saw Dr. Sean. Dr. Sean said a very good point along with Wendy, saying that regarding AI and ML, we all know the governance bit of it. And what we really ask is more corporates are sitting along with academia when they're coming up with these policies. Because we do have, it's in pockets where they gave an examples of Rolls-Royce, which came up with its own. Instead of that, how good it would have been if we could have gotten more academia and corporates together, and in different cultures, different geographies, we would have to change a few of these things. That's it.
So, responding Vidya, one, since we are in IISc, you have found your university, that's IISc. And Phanindra is here, he will take care of all your requirements. So Tesco just need to sign with IISc, that's it.
No, I can comment on what Vidya was mentioning. Tesco is already a partner with IISc.
I know we did, and we stopped 2019, right?
No, it is still going on. 2019, you have funded one research fellowship, which is still going on.
Scale that up. Scale that up. And on the London-Bangalore, just identify a organization on the London side, and then we will identify an organization on Bangalore side, and we will make it happen.
Done. Thanks, Chris.
Hari, last word. And then we will, ask for any comments if anybody has.
Thank you very much.
No, it's not on. Yeah.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I'm a faculty member in the Department of Electrical Communication Engineering. So I do work on wireless communication and signal processing. I'm also associated with the Telecom Standards Development Society of India. I'm the chair of the Standardization Committee of TSDSI. I'm also heading now the British Telecom India Research Center, which we collaborate with British Telecom. The focus areas of the BT-IRC are 5G, AI. Okay, so these are the two key buzzwords which we have been hearing, and we work on that. So a lot of faculty members work on 5G technologies and also AI. And in specific terms, responding to Chris, the applied research part, we're actually looking at collaborating with 3 universities: University College of London, University of Surrey, and University of East Anglia, along with IIT Delhi and IISc. We are very keen on looking at Open RAN for the future NG networks, the next generation networks, because I think both UK and India are keen on looking at open source based solutions. So very specific applied research topic would be that, and we are hoping that our joint proposal will find some funding from both sides. From the basic research, of course, we are all into looking at the next generation 6G and beyond algorithms for communication, and of course AI. We are also working in the BT-IRC digital twin project, so AR/VR also is important. From a structural point of view, I think what is important is to create, we did have, just to give you a history, 10 years back we had an Indo-UK Advanced Technology Center, which was funded by both UK government and DST of India. This included 8 universities in UK, 6 universities in IISc, a lot of, including Infosys, Wipro, Sasken, and others were involved as industry partners. And that was a very nice way because the Indian government funded the Indian universities, the UK government funded the UK universities, and it had a mobility component where faculty members and researchers could go. And every year we used to have a reciprocal visit. And that has yielded very good research output from a basic research point of view, as well as trying to demonstrate technology. I think something like that, if it can be revived, we do know that there are funding agencies in UK, and if a matching grant of a few tens of millions of pounds, can be established, then it makes this possible. But specifically, as I said, we are collaborating with these three universities. The proposal is almost there. So.
Thank you. Do you like to comment?
Okay, I can say a few words. My name is Fanindra, and I currently look after the international relations of IISc, and I happen to be the faculty in computational and data sciences. So I primarily work in the area of medical imaging, but I also look after a lot of policy issues in terms of international relations. One of the things which I wish the Foreign Secretary was there when I was making this comment. Currently, the Indo-UK Fund itself is going through a lot of trouble because of FCRA guidelines. FCRA itself regulates quite a bit of money flowing in, even though it is coming from a government entity in the UK. In fact, I myself, which we have put up a proposal, we had to go through a lot of struggle to identify saying that IISc is exempted from FCRA. Luckily, IISc is exempted from FCRA, so we are authorized to receive money. But there is this policy issue in terms of receiving the foreign direct investment. That is what Professor Hari was also mentioning. If there is an Indo-UK fund where Indian universities get funded from the Indian counterpart, and there is a UK government which funds the UK government part, it makes a lot more easier for us to maneuver things. This is as a policy, something has to be worked out. And this FCRA has put us quite a bit of struggle in terms of all the bilateral funds, especially UK directly investing into the India. That's number one. Number two is, most of the time there are quite a bit of funds available for the mobility, for the researchers to come in, go out. But, you know, purely from the Indian point of view, most of the funding in the emerging technologies are available. For example, 5G, AI, UK itself has run a couple of innovation challenges, both in the UK and climate change, as well as India, both in the AI and climate change. But there is also fundamental research which has to be funded. This is where, I'm just giving an example of France here, this is where Indo-French ties are much more stronger. They are not restricted to a single area, single innovation challenge. They are open. They say that anything which is a good proposal, we are willing to fund. And there is money for mobility, there is money for equipment, we call it as capital. Such that, you know, on both parts will come together and work. And there is also 2+2 model, which means that there are two universities and there are two companies which come together, 4 of them come together and put one grand challenge or grand solution for it. So my view is that, you know, if this 2+2 can be taken a page out of the Indo-French funding and then put into the UK thing, I think that will get us a lot more leverage, because I can see there is quite a bit of commonality between India and UK.
Thank you. James, you know, I'm not going to try and summarize because, you know, we have lots and lots of ideas actually. But clearly, you know, there are areas where people are already working. There are opportunities, you know, 5G, AI was spoken about. Then there are areas where together we can provide a solution to rest of the world, right? And lastly, you know, there are improvements in our relationships that we can do, including on our side, you know, can we make exception from the fund, from FCRA regulation when the funding is coming from government sources, right? Because, you know, and clearly coming to an academic institution or a research institution in India. So I think this is all recorded, right? So if a summary can be prepared by your office and you make the choice, which do you want to pick and choose, and we will work with you in taking those forward from the Indian side and your help on making it happen on the UK side. And then let's maybe get back together before your prime ministers visit and see whether we can put forward something for both prime ministers to take forward. So thank you all very much.
Chris, sorry, just one comment that I would like to make. I think this industry-academia engagement, I would like you to maybe consider also suggesting that secondments can happen to industry. both for students and for academics. I think that would, especially to, top industries, I think that will give a huge exposure, and also industry will engage with research. So that's my only
I think that already is possible. It's just that, at least in the IT industry, I know that we all are open to secondment, and limited numbers, of course, not large numbers, but, I know Infosys does it. I know Wipro has, TCS has, TCS probably, the Tata Group has a pretty large, exposure here. So it's possible. It's just that it's not widely publicized, maybe. But secondment is possible, especially for faculty, maybe not students. Students, some internship is possible, but faculty secondment is possible. If there is challenges...
So I was trying to expand that a little bit more. I mean, even for people from here to go and spend time in the UK industry.
Okay.
So that's one thing. And second is, I remember Royal Academy of Engineering had a program, maybe it is still there, where people from industry could come as a industry professor and spend the time in academics. I mean, Cambridge had several of those. So that's the other route, which way it strengthens the relationship. Because everything is ultimately about people to people.
Now, I think as part of strengthening relationships, if you can come out with a certain number of student exchange programs with both the government support, certain number of faculty exchange programs, faculty to industry, industry to academia. So we can put down some numbers, etc., and maybe part of the funding can come from industry itself. Then we can actually take that forward. But I'm going to leave it to you, James, to first consolidate this, but from that come out with which ones you would like to take forward, because we can't do all of it, unfortunately, and you'll have to continue to do what you're doing today. But based on priority of UK government, if you can identify those which you would like to take forward, then we will fully support you, and we can bring the broader industry. To some extent, KK represents NASSCOM, and if I go around, probably there are other associations represented. I can bring CII into this. So we will bring the industry associations to support this also. So thank you all very much. I'm glad that you all stayed by and large focused. That's always a worry. Unfortunately, the Foreign Secretary had to leave early, but thank you all for this. And Sean, Narahari, both of you are still there online. Any comments, Sean or Narahari, because I'll give you the last word, because you're still there. Sean first.
So here, I think my only final comments are that this has been a rich and important discussion. I've learned a lot about what exciting work that's happening in your part of the world, and a lot on priorities and opportunities that we should be working together on. I particularly agree on the issue of climate change. There are really wonderful opportunities and a need on these. I think I'll keep my comments brief because I'm getting some echo on my speech, but thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this discussion. I really look forward to follow-on conversations.
Professor Narahari?
Yeah, Narahari here. I think I really enjoyed the very lively discussion that took place today. I hope UK and India will have a really major initiative in neuromorphic computing and data science going forward. So looking forward to much higher levels of collaboration between Indian institutions and UK institutions. Thank you very much for this opportunity to participate in this roundtable.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Narahari. You can drop off. And James, thank you very much. And let's take this forward. Thank you.
So from the IISc perspective, I would like to thank Chris for chairing this roundtable discussion. I think he kept it lively. I would like to thank all of you for coming down to IISc and participating in it. We deeply appreciate it. I would like to thank UK High Commissioner and as well as the Deputy High Commissioner, including James, for giving us opportunity to host Foreign Secretary and as well as this roundtable. We enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So as a token of appreciation, we have some small gifts to be given. So I would appreciate if you come and collect it from Chris, who is the chair. Of course, for virtual ones, we don't have anything, sorry.